Welcome everyone here for our our launch party workshop. Today is the launch of our reopening of our live path course, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on today and let you guys know what that's all about, as well as a really cool bonus reveal. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that. And we just wanted to give you guys some great value today and go into a complete workshop. And as always, this is going to be a discussion. If you're here live in the group with us, please leave a comment. Let us know that you're here. Let us know what your questions and your challenges are. And we are more than happy to work on those together. So I'm here with Mark Johnson. How are you doing, Mark?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you doing?
Very good. Yes, I am excited today to share this with you guys. And I just want each of you to really think about what it would be like to have your spouse back. What does that mean for you specifically? Where is your situation right now? And where would you love for it to be? Maybe that looks like your spouse stopping a divorce, dissolving the divorce. We just had a couple months ago a client share that his wife picked up the divorce papers in the kitchen and marched toward him, and he got really nervous, but also kind of excited, not sure what she's doing. And she threw them in the trash and said, I guess we won't be needing those anymore. So would you love to see that happen? Would you love to see your spouse put their wedding ring back on? Maybe that looks like they stop sleeping on the couch or in another bedroom and they come back into your bedroom again and they are working on the marriage with you. How good would that feel? So before we start going into the steps to get your spouse back, I think it's really important that we clarify why we want them back. What would that mean for you? Mark, we talk a lot about intention, right? So
Mhm.
having an intention here at the beginning is going to give us a lot of clarity.
Yeah, so I think this is the wonderful thing that I like about working with people with this sort of problem. By the time they come our way, most people have woken up a little bit and they've said, okay, I really need to make some changes, no matter what happens here. And part of this, like Heather was saying, if your intention is in the wrong place, it's just not gonna work out. And this is oftentimes where we start a lot with some of our clients. But like I said, one of the great things about working with all of you is many of your intentions are in the right place. You're not just trying to solve things on the short term. You're not just trying to convince your spouse to come back. You're really trying to make some changes, and that's a really important piece to all of this. Is that your intention is in the right place, that you genuinely want to make some change in your life, in your relationship, that you actually want to be happier, and you're not just trying to convince or trick your spouse into coming back here.
That's right. We've got a comment here. Would love the divorce to stop, want to start talking without the anger, and for him to end the affair. And those right there, I would say, are the most common ones that we hear here at the Thriving Marriage. Mark and I, we've worked with thousands of couples all around the world and helped them to stop the process of divorce, to save their marriage and improve their marriage so that you're not just surviving marriage, but you're truly thriving. So today, Mark and I, we're going to share some steps with you, some information, but I want you to put it to the practice. I want you to take some action. So it's not just information, it's transformation, because just talking about this isn't enough. We have to start to make some changes and we have to truly work on things to get in the direction that we want to go. Yesterday, I did a quick live stream here in the group. If you caught it, I was talking about our business partner who's been interviewing sailors, and they're talking about embracing the storm and how you have to have a focus on where you want to go. And so Mark and I are going to be kind of like that lighthouse. Like, this is the way. We show you the way. We're the guide, but you have to do the work. You have to turn the boat. You have to face the waves. You have to face even some of the chaos of the storm to be able to get there. And so we're going to make some promises that we're going to show you the way. We're going to turn on the lighthouse and give you that light here, even in the midst of a dark storm. And I want you guys to promise that you will take some action today. You will listen to what resonates with you. Maybe you'll have an aha moment. In fact, I guarantee if you really pay attention and you give this your focus, that you will have an aha moment. I can see here in the chat that you guys truly want your partner. This matters to you. This is important. So give yourself the gift of truly listening to what your intuition is saying, to what your heart is saying, and start to take some kind of positive action in that direction. And that is how you will get there. All right, so let's dive in. 95% of people have no idea why their spouse is leaving. Oftentimes they're focusing on the symptoms rather than the root issues. They exert lots of energy and effort into making some positive changes that seem to have no effect on their spouse. In fact, we often hear that I'm working really, really hard to make all these positive changes, but it just seems to be backfiring, or it just isn't working. They're still heading out the door, and I don't understand why. So, Mark, when we say that people are focusing on the symptoms, they don't really know why their spouse is leaving rather than the root issues. What does this look like in practical terms?
Oh, this could look like so many things. This is when our audience, our clients, they're coming to us and saying, well, the whole reason we're having troubles right now is my husband or my wife, they're having an affair. Or the only reason that we are having problems right now is, there's an addiction, or we have money trouble, or we're not being intimate, we're not having sex often enough, we're not communicating. We look at a lot of these surface level things, and it just really isn't what's pulling them apart. Yes, those are causing some problems, but if you, let's say, and I see this all the time, where they say, okay, let's try getting out on some dates more because we're not connecting. They try to put a Band-Aid on it and wonder why it's not working. I was actually just talking with a new client earlier today, where he was saying that he and his wife weren't connecting very well. And so a few years back, he tried getting out on dates more. And then I asked him how that went. And he said, well, the dates just kind of fell flat and we weren't connecting. It wasn't all that fun. And I was like, well, of course, because you were just addressing the symptoms. You were just trying to put a Band-Aid on this whole situation without actually digging any deeper. And this is what Heather is talking about, in that people don't know why their spouse is leaving. They look at the symptoms and say, oh, that's the reason, when that's really not the case. So
we got a comment here. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Originally, he said he loved me, but he was not in love with me. This is, again, one of those common things that a lot of people say that's really on the surface level. And so it's not the real reason why they're leaving. It's important to understand, why are they saying that I love you, but I'm not in love with you? There's always something deeper.
Such a common reason that we hear all the time. And yeah, that's what, like Heather said, it's just scratching the surface. There's so many things that played into that loss of feelings. And if we can start addressing those deeper down reasons, those root issues, we're much more likely to be able to fix this.
Yeah, again, and there's another big mistake, really common mistake. In fact, I think it's probably the most common mistake, is that when we're in this kind of situation, we're focusing on the pain of what's happening and the fear of what could happen. And we stay stuck in pain and in fear, and then we aren't able to see with clarity what's really going on. And it's like being in the middle of a hurricane. It's like everything's whirling around you, and there's lightning and there's wind and there's waves and just crashing all around you, and you focus so much on that you don't see what's really causing the storm to happen in the first place, or where to go or what to do about it. So
do you see Holly's comment here? She's actually identifying some actual root issues. I feel like she's saying root issues seem to be feeling unwanted, feeling not good enough, and then scrolled a little bit. Where did it go? Felt abandoned when going through loss. And she even adds another one. It wasn't easy to communicate with me. And that's much more, those are deeper issues. Anyways, thought I'd point that out.
Yeah, so that's awesome clarity there. And that's what each of us need to get to, right? We need to have that clarity of what the real reasons are. When they say that I'm in love with you, but but I don't love you, right? Or sorry, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. Maybe the reason is one of these, like they really just don't feel appreciated. Maybe they don't feel wanted. Maybe they don't feel significant. Maybe they don't have trust there. And so the surface level reason is, I love you, but I'm not in love with you. But underneath is a much deeper thing going on. So that's what Mark and I do. And that's what this path method that we're going to share with you is all about, is helping to uncover not only like the symptom of what they're saying, but what's really behind that. So like I said, after working with thousands of couples that are really just like you, people that are going through affairs, people that say, I need to go find myself, right? People that say, I just want out. I'm just done. Nothing ever changes. I see the positive changes that you're making, but it's not going to work. It's not going to stick, right? So after working with all these couples that have gone through, the same thing, they've had divorce papers filed, they've been in the process of divorce, they've been separated, they're wondering, what can I really do? They've had their spouse say, I'm in love with someone else and I'm going to go create a new life with them, right? So what we did is we've discovered something, I'm going to say it's insane because no one else is talking about it. And we stumbled upon it almost by accident, and it has truly changed everything for our clients. And we boil it down like this: making positive change alone is not enough. You must uncover and understand why they are wanting a divorce. This understanding piece is so important. Mark, why is it not enough just to uncover what it is? Why do we have to bring understanding into the picture?
Oh, we're going to get really deep into this as we go through the class here today. But yeah, that idea that making changes isn't enough. We kept hitting this problem over and over with our clients. We'd say, well, here are the complaints from the spouse. These things are now fixed. Well, why aren't they coming back? It's because there's much more to it. There's some deeper understanding. It gets really into like some deep psychology sort of things about why people wouldn't want to come back. And a lot of that needs to be uncovered. If you're going to hope to, we are going to talk about this in some depth. It is one of the steps here that we keep hinting at, teasing about here, but we will get into it. I promise.
All right. So here we go. These are the 4 proven steps to get your spouse back. And the first one is that we want to open communication. In our path method, we call this the P of the acronym. And here it's where we really want to understand our spouse's perspective. We want to uncover what their real reasons for leaving are. Because unless we address those, then it's like we're just picking rotten fruit off a tree and thinking that's going to solve things, whereas we don't realize that the roots are what is causing the tree to be rotten, and we have to solve and heal the roots first. Does that make sense? Okay, awesome. So many, many times, I'd say, I don't know if I could put a percentage to it, but the vast majority of time when people come to us, communication in the marriage just sucks. Okay, it just does. It's
absolutely
not inexistent. It's not happening. Either things are very volatile and like you always explode and there's just a lot of tension, or things are very closed off. Maybe your spouse doesn't want to talk about the marriage. They don't want to talk about fixing things. They don't want to talk about us. They say, I'm done. I've made this decision and it's over, right? And that is where most people are when they come to us. So if that is your situation where communication is not happening in a productive and effective way, then I want to say, fret not, because you're not alone. And one of the real things that we need to understand here is that we need to give ourselves some grace, because up until this point, most likely we haven't been taught how to communicate. It's not something we learn in school. It's not something usually modeled by our parents or our friends and family that are all divorced as well, right? It's definitely not modeled in our culture. It's not modeled on the television shows that we watch. The opposite is what we see. It's the drama, right? Because that's what makes it interesting. However, if we haven't learned these things up until now, know that I just haven't known. I haven't known, and now I'm ready to learn some new ways. And we can give ourselves some grace about that we didn't know. And if we didn't know, now is the time we can learn how to really understand, how to open up communication, how to invite and set the stage to have incredible in-depth conversations. I just painted a really big picture there, and it's awesome, but it's a gradual process to get there. Like Mark and I, when we share these things, like we're talking about weeks or even months of action that needs to happen and evolution that happens in a relationship, and we share it in like 5 minutes. So it's kind of funny how that works out. But what we're talking about here is that even if you're not, you're barely talking, they're closed off, they're resistant to talking about the marriage. It's uncomfortable, it's tense, maybe they're cold, and it feels like you're just talking to an ice sculpture, right? Someone that has a frozen heart. Or you can even only talk about like surface level things like the kids or the divorce itself or just the business of managing a home and a family, right? So opening up communication is definitely our first milestone. We can't achieve anything unless we're able to do this. So Mark, how do we really open up this communication?
Oh, wow. Like you said, most of us don't learn how to do this. I even, I would say the opposite is true, especially, the stereotype is for men, they're, many times they're taught, okay, don't open up, don't share your feelings, don't talk. But in terms of what we would actually do to open up some communication, I do think that taking a lot of time to have understanding and patience for your partner, actually trying to see things from their perspective goes a long way. Almost every time when I can sit down with a couple and their conversations are really, really tense, or even, they're withdrawing from each other, it's because they're not taking time to understand things from their partner's perspective on a deeper level. They say, well, my partner is just trying to blank, and they put in some sort of negative intention. My partner is just trying to, and there's all sorts of these misunderstandings, misreading of intentions, and it can often be really easily solved just by taking some time to understand. And so usually, when I work with clients, I'll it's outside of the scope of this presentation, but I'll go step by step. Here's how you have this conversation. This is why you have these different pieces in. This is why you say these things here, and why you might say these other things in other places. But if I had to just boil it down to the one principle, it's understanding.
We got a comment here. Put yourself in their shoes.
Oh, absolutely, Holly. That is number one thing that we can probably do. And I would say this is really hard, especially when your partner is doing some things that you probably see as damaging, like affairs, or they're being rude and disrespectful. But, oftentimes, even in those situations, you need to offer some understanding, because there's a reason why they're going that way. So there's that. I always tell people, hey, offer it first and then ask for some balance. But, at the same time, there are many situations where the other person, you need to teach them how to understand you as well. And that's another skill that's not often taught very well.
Right. We all crave that understanding. We crave feeling like someone just gets us. And we get so stuck in ourselves that we're not willing to give that to someone else. And I just want to just promise, like, after working with so many people and after having done this myself, it's one of the most healing things that you can do. Because oftentimes we think that someone's doing something, maybe they're being disrespectful, maybe they're hurting us, maybe they're betraying us and breaking our trust. And we think we know why. But if we actually understood where they were coming from and what was going on in their head and what they've been through and the things that have led up to this point in their life, then that's where compassion can be extended. And compassion allows us to heal. It doesn't excuse behavior ever, but allows us to see where they're coming from and allows us to get out of any false interpretation of where it really came from.
Heather, I just want to, and I want to point out here that, a lot of our clients have even said, the kind of things that they learn about this and, just taking time to understand, they've started applying it to their other relationships in their lives too. And they say it just kind of opens up a whole new world for them. I want to point out, like, I didn't talk to Heather about this ahead of time, but Heather, you and I, we've had some disagreements here and there, right? But
we wouldn't be business partners this long if we hadn't.
Ultimately, though, how did we start getting through those disagreements? We started to try to understand the other person's perspective, and that really would cut through those moments for us. Even though you and I aren't married, it's applicable in many relationships.
Exactly. And we did the entire workshop on this last week, our communication toolbox. So if you haven't gone through that, then we really encourage you to do that, because we go much more in depth into just exactly how to open communication, even conversation starters, the ways to ask a question that will allow more than a one-word response is really crucial. Because if you're just getting like snippets of an answer, yes, no, I already told you no, I'm done, just like really choppy answers, then you haven't learned yet the skill of how to open up a conversation. And that's something I didn't have before until learning this myself. And it's been extremely helpful, like Mark said, not only in my marriage, but in my parenting, in my friendships, and in my extended family relationships. Some of those are challenging, I'm not gonna lie. And so it helps to know, like, our golden question, I'll just give one here. What do you mean? And you ask it with no pressure. And there's a mindset that has to shift here, that we go really deep in that workshop on taking the pressure off and truly wanting to understand with no other agenda. I'm not trying to get you back. I'm not trying to manipulate you. I'm not trying to gain anything except I genuinely care about you. I want to understand you. And when you approach it from that kind of an emotional state, it allows your partner to feel safe and to feel comfortable, and then they will open up and share. I just wanted to highlight a comment that we got here. Learning new ways is extremely rewarding. It is extremely rewarding. And you get to see the small wins over time as you start to do some of these new things that add up to incredible wins in the long run. So that is a beautiful comment there. All right, now I just want to share with you a little bit of what this looks like in real life. Some of our clients, that these are the results that they're getting as they've applied these exact principles, and they're really able to open up communication for the first time in a long time with their husband or with their wife. And so this one's from Russ, and he was talking about how he called his wife, Heather, not me, his wife, in the middle of a busy afternoon. He remained upbeat and in the context that I was just thinking about her, but would be home late because of a board meeting. She totally engaged, no 20 questions to get a conversation out of her, and she mirrored my upbeat demeanor. After some exchange, I quit well ahead, said I'd see her in a couple hours, and she pleasantly said goodbye. This is 180 degrees from what I have experienced over the last few months. I may be able to concentrate a little more on work this afternoon, which has been a huge challenge recently. So here you can see 180 degree from what Russ was experiencing before. So now he's able to have a very pleasant conversation with her. She is mirroring that, and they're able to make a lot of progress there, which is a huge milestone. We always celebrate when we reach this milestone because it's awesome. It's a huge sign of progress. And then this one's from Daniel. Just 2 months ago, Sam and I couldn't have more than a 2-minute conversation. Sound familiar, right? 2-minute conversation. And every time I asked her why she was leaving or if she would just work on things, it was always a closed door. I did what you said and worked on showing understanding first. She must have sensed that because she's really opened up to me now. We've had some amazing conversations, and I feel like I'm coming to understand her more and more. This is huge for us. So this shows the picture as you're working on this. You're making some of these changes, you're making some of these, learning some of these new skills, that the positive results start to show up. And that brings us to step 2, which in our acronym of PATH is adjustments. Mark, what is adjustments in this stage all about?
Well, I think this is where a lot of people start off when they try to start fixing things. They they skip the step of trying to understand, and so they might skip to, okay, I'm going to get flowers or cards or whatever, or I'm going to just try to fix things without actually trying to understand why there are problems or what the problems actually are. And this is where I think some people trip up a little bit. But when I'm talking about adjustments, I'm not talking about some simple fixes. I'm talking about, making the changes that are needed to, and basically make sure that there is a healthy foundation for the relationship to come back to, if both people were to choose that. So this can, this is such a big category. Just some examples here. It says there on the slide, creating some healthy boundaries. Maybe you need to set some boundaries for yourself, or maybe you need to set some boundaries for your partner. But even that's I know Heather and I have had a bunch of requests on talking about boundaries. This is a whole topic unto itself, because I think a lot of people come at boundaries from a completely wrong direction. I had a client the other day who kept saying, well, I kept hearing the word boundaries and kept thinking about the boundaries that I set with my children and how it's such a negative thing. And I'm just telling them what to do. And that's not what we're talking about here. It might be about just having more healthy communication. Like I was talking with a client earlier today about how they previously had been very closed off to their wife, and how she didn't feel like there's connection there because of that. So, being able to actually hold a conversation, or maybe it's that deeper intimacy and connection, just being able to feel close and safe with each other, feeling like you belong together. But, this is going to be something that's going to be unique to each couple as in terms of what needs to be changed. Typically once again, like with communication, I suggest making the changes first yourself and then asking for some balance, or bringing balance into the relationship. But it's going to be different all around. Lots of different things we could talk about. And this is why we have the programs that we do, to talk about the many, a lot of the common things that people could change.
Exactly. We call it your marriage like thumbprint, because each of our fingerprints or thumbprints are so different, right? No one else has the same one. No one else has the same marriage as you. And so sometimes people will pick up, I did this, to be completely honest, when my marriage was having a hard time, we'll pick up a book and it will apply to one situation, but it will completely backfire in another. And so Mark and I are always very careful that we give custom solutions to custom problems, right? It's not a one size fits all. There's not just one way of doing it that works for everyone. So it's really important that we solve your root problems unique to your relationship at the roots. I'm going to then to genuine love for each other.
I'm going to explain something else. The whole reason here, we think that just making the changes fixes the relationship, but no, the big, I often describe myself, I think I'm a little bit weird in how I think about relationships. And I say this all the time. I look at them almost mechanically, and mechanically what these changes do is it helps the relationship to feel a little bit more safe again. It starts to fill in some of the needs that were missing before. So if the changes are about having more respect, that's fulfilling that need that was missing before. If it's about having more of that connection, you're talking with your spouse a little bit more. But this is absolutely about fulfilling needs and taking action.
Exactly. And what happens, because I look at relationships more probably from an emotional standpoint, energetic standpoint, is that safety then creates connection. And this is where we are able to show our spouse, I'm making these changes and I'm making them for real. I want to become a better version of myself. And they will sense that. And it won't be about getting them back or about manipulating them, right? They're going to feel that sometimes. This is kind of at this stage is what we call the teeter-totter effect, because they're going to have some hope and some ability to see that they could be happy with you. And then their story comes right back into play, and their fear comes right back into play. And then they say, nope, I'm not going to do it. It doesn't feel, there's that teeter-totter effect here. And so here it's really important that you're guided and shown how to navigate through those challenges. And when they say, yeah, things are really good, I can see that we're opening up. And then the next day, boom, walls closed. And it's like, what happened? What happened to all the progress that we made? It's really important that we're working on our individual mindset through this phase so that we can stay strong through kind of the bumps of the roller coaster journey that happens here, and knowing that it's okay. We can actually embrace the teeter-totter effect. We can embrace the ups and downs and not totally freak out every time it happens, because it's actually really normal, and it's actually a sign that things are progressing. Because what's happening is their story about why they want to leave is breaking down, and they're starting to see the hope that they could really be happy with you, that things could really be good, and that these changes that we're making are going to last. And so we just guide you through that and show you how that exactly looks like. So Mark, do you mind sharing here the experience that we had with Ron and Ashley? Their names have been changed, but
yeah. I think it was we'll say Ron. Roy. Either way, the names are changed. I suppose it doesn't relate to Ron or Roy. But, so I remember this one well. So Roy came to us because his wife had separated from him, and according to her, he just really wasn't there for his wife Ashley. And so we took quite some time and taught Roger to open up and to deepen his conversations, to just be a lot more intimate on a lot of different topics, a lot more vulnerable. And things were going well here, but his wife still wasn't coming back. Now, I want to point this out because, it isn't always just about making the changes. So they had great interactions, and they enjoyed each other's company. They simply by making some adjustment, this had all improved because he made some adjustments and it was taking her concerns seriously. The whole point here is this is a process, and by making the adjustments, all of their interactions improved, and it began to chip away at her belief that they needed to pull apart. It's just he was just missing a couple steps to fully get her back, and we're going to be getting into some of those steps here coming up.
Right. And this is awesome because it totally answers the question that we got here. When we live apart, how can I do this? So here, Roy and Ashley, they were separated, and he made these adjustments. He deepened his conversations, right? They had some great interactions. So things started to feel really safe and comfortable again. There was a little bit of that teeter-totter effect, but he was able to work through that with Ashley. And now you need to make sure that you go on to the next step so that you're not missing any of these. Sometimes Mark and I, we see that you may have mastered or be working really hard on one or two of these, and you may be missing the others. And so you really have to make sure that you have the entire picture to really restore the marriage and get your spouse back. So what this looks like, the runaway spouse, I love how you put this, Mark. The runaway spouse, this is what they believe. They believe that nothing can change. They believe, I can't be happy here, or I could be happier over here. And so that's what I'm going to do, and nothing can change. So that's the kind of mentality that they're at. And so then when change happens, when we show them I am actually changing, then we remove that part of the argument. So that's not there anymore. And that's when we start to make those positive adjustments, which then starts to open their heart and their mind through understanding and no pressure. Those different things that we teach are so fundamental that allows them to see they could be happy with you, right? And so by making changes, you start to form a foundation that long-term, like Mark just said, actually could support a healthy relationship. We don't want to make those surface level changes and then have you get back together and have it fall apart again in 6 months. That's not what we're about. We're about making long-term adjustments here.
Now I recognize like I said, most people have probably tried making changes. I imagine this step, hey, us telling you need to make some changes probably isn't like this great enlightening moment. It's when you combine it with the other steps and when you actually make the right changes that this really makes a difference, is what we're talking about here.
Right. And making the right changes with the right attitude, like with the right intention. Changes, but for the wrong reasons. They're doing it out of desperation. They're doing it out of fear. They're doing it out of pain. And they just want to get their spouse back, right? Even we say, get your spouse back. But it's all about doing it from a place of genuine care and understanding and shifting away from the neediness and the desperation to a state of calm. And kind of, it really is about releasing the need for it to work. It's about saying, I'm okay either way. I'm going to be a better person no matter what. I'm safe if we come back together or if we don't. And when you get to kind of that internal state and that internal peace, your partner senses that, and it feels much safer to them, because now you're no longer in fear, desperation, pleading, any of those reasons. Even if it looks like on the outside, you're trying to do all the right things. If you feel that internally, your partner will still sense it and it will push them away. But if you make that internal shift, first of all, you're going to have more peace. You're going to have more confidence. You're going to be standing in your personal power, and you really will be okay. You really will know that it's going to be fine no matter what happens. Even if you still want it to happen, that's okay. But you know that you are safe and secure regardless of what happens to the things that you can't control. Your partner will sense that newfound security, peace, strength, and love within yourself. And the beautiful thing is, it's really attractive. It's really attractive when you make that internal shift. I hope that makes sense. It's kind of hard to articulate. It's one of those things that you can feel, and on the, that's something that you feel internally, and it starts to change everything externally. All right, let's go on here to step 3, which is to change their narrative. So in this step here, your husband-wife changes the story that they've created about you and the relationship. So they see the possibility of being happy with you again. And many other counselors, coaches, pastors, even us before we discovered this, totally miss this. So Mark, why is it so important that we change the story that they have about us?
Oh, Heather, I don't know how many times you've heard this sort of statement, like where one of our clients comes and they say, well, I've made some changes, but my husband or wife, they just think that I'm trying to manipulate them, or I'm trying to control them by making these positive changes. You're nodding your head there. Yeah, we hear it all the time. It's what I found is, even after people would make the changes, even after we took care of everything that, all the major concerns, there's almost like this story that was keeping people apart. A lot of times, the very common ones would be things like, if I come back, then, things are just going to go back to the way things were. Or, there's lots of other little things, but that's a really common one. Or one I just mentioned earlier, like they're just making these changes because they're trying to trick me. They're trying to pull me back into this relationship where I'm going to be hurt. They're trying to manipulate me. But what this is really about, it's about misunderstanding intentions. And your husband or wife, they change the story that they've created about you in the relationship. They might say, well, my husband doesn't care about me. They don't value my opinion. They don't care about what I have to say. They don't actually love me. And we're getting a comment from the one of the people in the audience. I finally feel such freedom to love him no matter what. This has opened up communication tremendously. And his story is, you deserve someone better than me. So even I do see that on occasion, this sense of guilt, like, okay, I've seen you've made all these changes and I don't deserve you anymore. You deserve to be happy. And what's really being left unsaid, and this is what the narrative is. It's the explanation for what's happening. What's being left unsaid there is if we come together, it's not going to work out. You deserve someone better than me. And the thing is, they've built up this story over a long period of time, for months. They've tried to, if they're pulling away from the relationship, they have to make that feel good in some way, or at least feel okay. This is all kind of a principle of cognitive dissonance, and people don't like cognitive dissonance when ideas aren't really matching up, when stories aren't really matching up. So they have to shift the story to make it feel okay. And so we get stories like that, like you deserve someone better than me, and this is the big wall that everyone hits. All the other steps, the opening up communication, the making adjustments, that another part of the PATH program is really that mindset. It's all to kind of help chip away at this narrative here. It's so that they can see the possibility of being happy with you again.
That's right. All right. So how do we change the story? And again, we could do an entire workshop on this, and we probably will. In fact, we just did a podcast on it last week. So changing their story, since it's such a crucial part, is what we need to do: consistent, clear messaging, what we call home messages. Mark, can you give us an example of what this looks like?
Yeah. Like I said, a big portion of this is misinterpreting intentions. So we call them, this is a concept that I came up with. I call them home messages because, I like to think of them almost like you would an ideal home. You come back to your home frequently. It's comfortable. It's reassuring. And so I talk to people about these home messages because I want them to bring these up with a lot of frequency, for it to come back a lot. And a lot of times what it is, it's about clearly communicating your intentions and pairing it with actions that support those intentions. But, that consistent, clear messaging, not just in what you're saying, but then backing it up with what you're doing is a really important piece in starting to shift that narrative. Beyond this, there's lots of other little things that need to happen. And this is probably the process that takes the longest, simply because it took a long time for your spouse to build up the story that they have. But other things that work here, like it says in the slide, is consistently reframing the problem. Because oftentimes when it comes to this, they're describing the problem in terms of it's an impossible problem, or there's just something, so terrible that they can't even face it, or there's this inevitable outcome that's going to happen. They know it's going to fail, and reframing it in much more temporary, solvable, positive terms. As long as you're doing it right, you're confident, it can help shift that story. So like it says here, I often describe the poor narrative, the problematic narrative, that it has some problems in terms of scope, direction, and charge. That the scope of the problem is so much broader, so much deeper than maybe what's accurately going on, or that it's so much more negative than, or your intentions are so much more negative than they are. Or maybe there's a lot of charged words like, you've emotionally abused me and I've been neglected, and this is such a terrible situation. You're such a narcissist. And while sure, there are some situations where those labels would apply, I would say, what would you say, Heather? Like 95, 99% of the people that we talk to, things are so much more negatively charged than, if from an outside perspective, than it actually is.
Absolutely.
And so, changing the narrative, we need to adjust these different points here and what's going on. And we have lots of exercises, like Heather was saying, that this could be multiple trainings, and well, there are multiple trainings in our program. we could talk about this for hours, about how to do different things here, make different changes, shifts to help change the narrative.
That's right. So that leads us then to step 4, which is H, hold out hope. In other words, we're going to give you some time. You're going to have your spouse agree to slow down or stop the process of divorce. And we've proven time and time again that if we can slow down the process of divorce, separation, or even just distance between you and your spouse, and gain 6 months of time, have your spouse agree to give you 6 months of time, or give you time to work on the marriage together, that the opportunity for your husband, wife to fall back in love with you greatly increases. This is when things start to get really exciting. But it is time. It took time to get into this situation. It took time for your relationship to be at the point where it is. And it's going to take time for it to be turned around and to completely restore your marriage. Mark and I literally just did a podcast on this on Tuesday. So if you want to go back and listen to that, we're on iTunes and you can check that out. But basically what it is, it's really important that we obtain this step, that we get some time, and that we create intention about what needs to happen during this time in order to have some success there, right? To have some success. So Mark, go ahead and share with us the story of Frank and Courtney here.
Sure. So Frank and Courtney, of course, we always change names if we haven't gotten direct permission. So Frank's wife left suddenly to be with someone else. This was devastating for Frank. And this is what I always find really interesting because it's so common. Courtney actually was blaming Frank for not feeling supported or loved. She was shifting the blame of her leaving back onto him. You know, like her actions were his fault. So once again, we see that a lot, but Frank made some huge changes to his career and his role as a father. He actually took another position that ended up being a pay cut so that he could be there for his kids more. His kids felt like he wasn't there. He wasn't present. He wasn't a father to them. So he made some huge changes to his career, and he showed some high levels of support and love towards his kids. And whenever his wife was needing to talk with him or needing some support, he offered that as well. The thing is, this went on for a while with his wife staying back. She kept her distance, and she kept insisting that this other man was the one that she wanted. But you know, the thing is, statistics aren't really favorable to affairs like this. You know, sudden affairs, they don't generally work out long term. And so the affair fell apart, and Courtney started to be much more open towards Frank and dropped a lot of her hostility and started talking about the relationship. So when we were consistent with a lot of the actions, it took some time, and that was painful for Frank until he kind of got himself to a better place. But circumstances changed, and he was able to start working more directly on the marriage at that point.
Right. And now they're at the point where they're both working on the relationship and doing better than ever. That's another thing that we often hear is that people that have gone through an affair, even though it's incredibly painful, they'll say it was the best thing that ever happened to us. Why would they say that? It's a horrible thing to happen, but they would say it's the best thing that ever happened to us because we were able to finally work on the things that we had been neglecting for years up until that point. And they'll say things like, we're happier than we've ever been. And it's beautiful to see that happen. So that is it. Those are our 4 steps. So I'm going to zoom through this just because we are a little bit short on time. So here it is. It's really important that we apply each of these 4 steps and that we don't miss any steps, that we solve problems in order so that we can get the results that we really want. So we need to uncover what their true story is, just like these clients here have done. And you can see the results here in our Thriving Marriage Facebook group. They're just pouring in daily, their wins. And that's exactly what our method is designed to do. So instead of guessing what's going on, like Jenna in this example we gave, we zoomed through it. But like so many of us, we're just guessing what's going on. We're guessing why they did that. That we're guessing that they had an affair because I wasn't good enough. They're guessing that they say, I'm in love with you, or sorry, I love you, but I'm not in love with you because they must not really care about me, right? We guess at what they mean. But instead of guessing what is going on and what they really need, you know what's going on. And you can see it clearly. Then you know exactly what to say, when, and how. So it takes the guesswork out of it, takes the confusion out of it, takes the fear and the neediness out of it, and allows you to be in a state of calm, right? It's just an easy way to talk naturally, uncover why they're leaving, open up communication, increase understanding. And as you do that, you open the door for them to stop the divorce, to stop the separation, to come back home and have them fall back in love with you. That's the big picture. And that's what we want to help you get, right? So I want to ask you, what did you learn today? What stood out to you the most? What aha moments did you have? What did you realize, I haven't had those skills up until this point. I really need that. I really need to improve myself. Not only is it going to help this relationship, regardless of what happens, but it's going to help all relationships in my life. And that is important to me. And I really want to ask you, why are you here, right? I don't know exactly why you're here, but you're probably here because you want to get your spouse back. You want to fall in love. You want to feel happy. You want to feel secure in your marriage. That's one of the best things about my relationship now, that it's in a good, healthy place, is that I feel secure and he feels secure. And we're able to have a deeper level of intimacy and trust and connection because of that. You're probably here because you want to know what to do, right? How to get there and have confidence that this is going to work. It isn't a pipe dream, and you don't have to listen to all your friends that just say you need to leave him or her, or it's over, it's too late. But you know that this is going to work and that it's worth it to learn these things, right? So if that sounds like you, if that's why you're here, then Mark and I, we have something cool for you. And as you know, we are opening the doors today for the Live Path program. We're reopening it. We've had doors shut for 3 months, and now it's time to open doors again to offer this to you. So you have two options. You can go at it on your own, like I did. You can read the books that don't really apply. You can watch random YouTube videos. You can go to a counselor and spend years or months, and your spouse can pull further and further away from you. That is a choice. Or you can get our step-by-step process and even have the opportunity, just like today, except even more in depth, that you're going to be able to ask us questions and be able to get guidance on how to solve those challenges that you're facing. And there's an epic bonus to our Live Path grand reopening that I'm going to reveal in just a minute. So what is the Live Path course? I just want to break it down really clear for you and go through some commonly asked questions that you may have. And I will be watching the comments here as well. So what it is, it's a 10-hour in-depth live course. It's not an automated course. It's actually done live with experts guiding you every step along the way. You'll get hours of our live video training, one-on-one calls, and 24/7 email support so that you can effectively save your marriage. So basically, it's a step-by-step process that we've gone through. We go through each of these phases and steps with you in depth so that you can open up communication, check off that first milestone, celebrate that you got there, right, with your spouse, so you can get them to stop divorce and fall back in love with you.
I want to clarify here. When you say a 10-hour live course, it's not 10 hours straight.
No, it's not 10 hours straight. Thank you. That could be misleading. That would be a very epic day.
That would be exhausting.
So yeah, after working with thousands of couples, Mark and I, we found that there are certain commonalities, things that draw couples together and things that push them apart, common mistakes that you make when you're in this process of divorce or separation, or your marriage is really struggling, that pushes them further away, even if you think you're doing the right things. So now it's time to stop doing what we think is the right thing and actually do what's the right thing, what's going to naturally pull our spouse back to you, so that they can get back at home with you and in love with you. And so this is the fastest way to get your spouse back. And again, it has the weekly 24/7 email support and also live classes, which teach you everything you need to get your spouse back fast. What we've done is we basically combined our coaching program that's always done live and individualized with our automated course so that you have an incredibly unique experience to get the solutions that you need. And so we're doing a 90% discount for the reopening. And so this program will be priced at $1,500 after the reopening because it includes the email support, the live classes with real coaches, real marriage experts, plus this epic bonus I'm going to talk about in a minute. But today, with this reopening, you can join for just $157. So let me walk you through real quick what happens each week. Because before I join something, I want to know what it's all about, right? And so what we do is we're going to take 1 week for each of these phases. Now, I want you to know you're not going to master or like meet this milestone in the week, but you're going to learn how to do it so that as then you can go forth and apply it and achieve it, right? So week 1 is perception. And here is where we really open up communication. You can see here on the slide, we're going to give you ability to open up communication, even if they're closed off, not wanting to talk right now. The power pack questions that ensures your spouse starts talking with you and you have a real conversation. And then 4 life-saving actions. This is important because if your marriage is heading downstream fast, then we need to turn that ship around, right? And we need to do it quickly because time's not on your side. So you need your spouse to stop pulling away, and we show you how to increase positive interactions so that you can reconnect and you can even feel like you did when you first fell in love. Remember how good that feeling was, how freeing it was, how secure and significant you felt? That's what we want to help get you there. All right, and then damage control systems designed to stop the damage so you can start to rebuild. And we also give these really fancy names. Our root cause X-ray scanner. Remember we talked about the root cause, right, Mark? How important it is to find that. And so here we're going to find the exact source of your marital challenges so you can uncover the reasons for leaving and work on a real solution. Anything you want to say about the first phase, Mark?
No, I think you got it covered, and for time's sake, I'll just
all right, I like to think some of you are seeing that this is exciting. Awesome. All right, so that's week 1. Oh my goodness. Isn't that like so cool? I think it's fabulous. And knowing times when my communication with Ben has been off and we haven't understood each other, we've been negatively interpreting each other's actions, this is life-changing. It truly, truly is. It's completely transformed my life personally. And now I have incredible communication with Ben. It's not without challenges, but now we know how to work through those challenges together. And I know how to open up the communication when he feels like a closed off wall. And so it's really incredible information that leads to transformation as you apply it. All right, then in week 2, this is where we go through those adjustments. And you're going to learn that there are 6 key ingredients in every healthy relationship so you can work through your problems. If you have 1 or 2 of these ingredients, and I promise you, you do, even if your marriage is struggling, you have some of these good key ingredients, but you may be missing some others. And so without those, you're not really going to be able to get your spouse back or have the happy, healthy relationship you want. So it's important that we uncover what all of those are and see which ones are missing for you so that you can bring that in and create health and balance in your relationship. And then we talked about setting healthy boundaries, right, Mark? This is where we, if needed, set those healthy boundaries. And what does that help us do, Mark?
It's not just, like I said, this isn't always just about what has to change on your end. So sometimes setting those boundaries is really, you can't necessarily control your spouse, but what you do to bring the situation into a healthier state. It's about setting some expectations, understanding why your spouse might be crossing those lines, offering some healthy alternatives. But ultimately, if you're having to set some boundaries, you might need to employ some consequences, not necessarily punishments, but some consequences. And this is about bringing things into balance, like we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. And like we saw a comment there, that it's actually a very healing thing that happens with your relationship and allows you to open up communication even more. Again, this is going to be very specific to your marriage. And so there might be trust that needs to be healed so that you can feel safe, you can feel close with each other. And so we'll show you how to do that and make sure that we always cut to the core of the problems. We'll also show you how you need to keep communication going and some conversation traps that can keep you stuck in a painful rut, especially as you face the teeter-totter phase and they start to show some hope and then they pull away, and how you can have the positive mindset as well as how to keep communication going through those. And then this is really important. A lot of people get stuck in past pain and they're holding on to a lot of past pain, either you or your spouse. And so we want to help you with our emotional painkiller to help let go of those past pains and move into your future. And this is so incredibly freeing and healing that it will benefit you for the rest of your life. I held on to pain for years until I learned how to do this, and we'll show you how to do it as well. In week 3, that's when we tell a new story. And again, we're going to go even more into the teeter-totter effect, which is a major win, not something to be avoided or scared or think, oh, I tried it and it's not working. No, it actually is a sign that it is working. And most other counselor programs never teach this, right? They teach that it's a bad thing and that it's not working. And we show you how it actually is a major win and how you can keep the positive momentum going and then get that time that you need to fully restore your marriage. And I'm just going to give a teaser here to the resistance busting toolbox. So if there's any resistance left in your husband or your wife at this point, and they're still showing some resistance, we show you how to bust through that. But it's not an aggressive way. It sounds like a really forceful way, but it's actually in a really natural way that they'll be completely drawn to you and remove any of that remaining resistance. And that's where most people get this last step wrong. And it's like they get so close. You hear that like 90% of people are like 3 feet from gold, right? And then they stop. And so we don't want to be the people that are almost there and then give up. So this is where it's a huge opportunity for you to get it right. Awesome. I see. I need this. Awesome. I did this in April, but need this again. As my emotions get better, I need to hear this all again. Exactly, because it is a process. And so if you have gone through it before, it is very valuable to do it again and be able to deep dive into these principles. Week 4 is our hold out hope. This is where we make effective changes so your spouse can see the possibility of being happy with you again, long term. I have a personal friend, I've shared with this in the group before, and this is where they're at. And it is beautiful, and it is still challenging, but it is so exciting to see the progress that they're making as her heart opens up to him and she sees that she can be happy with him again, that she can be respected in her marriage, that she can have her needs met now, and that they're working together as a team. And here we really want to build some intimacy, some connection, and we show you how to do that. It's not overnight. Okay, that's a marketing word. It's not overnight. So it is still a process, but it is possible, even if you have hurt each other. My daughter says the chutter, like the chutter. So I'm slipping into my toddler talking. And then how to forgive, right? How to forgive yourself first, and then forgive your spouse for good. Forgiveness is a decision, and we show you how to truly forgive yourself, because until you forgive yourself, it's impossible to forgive anyone else. But it is crucial to having a happy, peaceful life that is what we all truly desire. And then, again, solving the root issues. So you can tackle problems together as a team. In this phase, your spouse actually wants to work on it with you. And so we show you how you can start to work on those deeper root issues together as a team. And finally, we cover the final steps you need to bridge the gap between yourselves and fully restore your marriage. And if there's anything left remaining at this point, this is where we solve it at that deep level so that true healing can occur for you both. So here's the epic bonus. With our live path course, we are going to be giving 2 full 45-minute one-on-one coaching sessions. This is different than when we did live path last time. They're going to be 2 full 45-minute one-on-one coaching sessions worth over $600 alone. Oh my goodness. I need to read and talk at the same time. It's not that hard. All right, so session 1, we call this our deep marriage analysis, where you're going to work with a marriage expert, one of our coaches, and go through deep onto what the challenges are and what's going to be the things that you need to bring into your marriage. What are some of those new skills that you need to learn. How do you need to heal? How is your mindset going? And create an action plan with you. Then in session 2, your next full coaching session, you're going to get the root issue solver. This is where we have identified the action plan, and we're going to hold you accountable to how you're doing and show you what the next steps are so that you can reconnect with your spouse, continue to open up communication, and build an even deeper connection. Epic might not be big enough word. I love it. The 10 hour one day. Oh, that would be crazy. All right. So we are so confident in this program and in this path method that we have. We have seen it work with so many people that we know that you will benefit from this process. And that's why we offer a 60-day, 100% money back guarantee to ensure you get the results that you want. So here are some common questions. I haven't seen very many in the chat, so that's okay. But will this work for me? Will this work for me? Here is where it will work for you. So A, no physical or sexual abuse going on. If that's the case, then there needs to be a different approach. That's not a healthy situation, and there are some really big healthy boundaries that need to be set for the relationship to survive at all. But if there's no physical or sexual abuse and you have at least some level of communication, that means that you talk at least some level. There's not a restraining order. You don't live on the other side of the world from each other. You are able to interact at some level, even if communication isn't great, like we talked about earlier. You at least need to have some kind of communication going on. So if that is the case, then yes, this will work for you. What if my spouse has already filed for divorce, right? What if we're already in that process? Is it too late? No. While the situation becomes more difficult after a filing, it doesn't mean that it's the end. Many, many, many of our clients are in the divorce process, right, Mark? He says, yeah.
Yes.
It does mean that time is critical and you need all the tools available to help you patch this delicate situation. So even if your spouse has filed for divorce, there is still hope, again, if you have regular contact of any sort. 2, you are still living in the same house or at least see each other several times a month. So you need to have at least that kind of contact going on. Another really common question here, should I get the one-on-one coaching or the live path? I want to make this really, really clear. Coaching is always the fastest and best way to get help for your relationship. Bottom line, nothing beats working with us one-on-one for ultra customized solutions to get the results that you want. It's the very best that's out there. It's the very best in the world. So if your marriage really warrants one-on-one attention and you want to get results fast, then that's what you need. You need one-on-one coaching with us. And so you can see that our clients, they always get positive results. And you can check out their stories here on the group. You can also go to highthrivecoaching.com/apply and you can see their positive results. However, this program is not for everyone. And that is why we're offering an alternative for you today. For those that want coaching, I'm just going to be really honest. We don't take everyone, and we have more people wanting to work with us than we can take on. And so you must be committed, you must be resourceful, and you must be coachable. It's a multiple $1,000 investment to turn your marriage around fast. And if you do our coaching program, you get the path course free with the coaching. So that is what
a ton of extra services involved with the one-on-one coaching. So it absolutely, absolutely worth it. Anyways, don't mean to interrupt your flow.
No, yes, absolutely, exactly. And so if you want the coaching, then go to highthrivecoaching.com/apply, and that is how you get the best help possible. Question here, what happens if you can't afford this? We get that. And so that is why we want to do the live path course, because instead of having to do a multiple $1,000 investment, if that's not something you can do right now, then the live path course would be the best option for you. We wanted to be able to give multitudes of people this information to lead to transformation in their lives rather than just only those that could afford one-on-one coaching. And so that's the best option. You learn our proven path method and you get 2 bonus one-on-one coaching sessions, which is an incredible value, and we haven't done that before. Our one-on-one clients get like 12 to 24 of these sessions, but you're going to get the first 2 that they get. And then if you want to continue with coaching, if you find it like, I really need this, of course, you can always continue on. Again, remember, it's an amazing 90% discount right now for the reopening. So it's only $157 instead of $1,500, which is what we have sold it for after doors close. And we are going to sell it again for $1,500 after doors close. So just know that it's right now just as a gift to you guys as our grand reopening of the course. And I want to make note, there are only 100 spots. And there are over 150,000 people in our audience that are going to see this. So make sure that if this resonates with you, you take action. We sent out a secret email to our waiting list yesterday, and already almost half the spots are gone. They are going to fill up really, really fast. And so it's important that you take action to join this course before it's closed. You can join over at relationshiprebootcourse.com/livepath. That's relationshiprebootcourse.com/livepath. It's like our basic relationship reboot course on steroids. And so if that's you, if you're saying, yes, I need this, I need to know how to gain some new skills I haven't had up until this point. I need to heal on a deeper internal level. I need to shift from a state of pain, of a state of anxiety, a state of desperation, a state of fear, it's just a state of worry about this, to a state of calmness, to a state of peace, to knowing how to step into my power so that I can face the challenges of life with grace, with wisdom, and with strength, and I can become the better version of myself. That is our intention, and that is what we will show you how to do in this course. So thank you, Mark. Thank you so much for sharing us this incredible path method, these 4 steps to get our spouse back. Thank you everyone for joining. And again, doors are closing soon. There are limited spots. So join us over at relationshiprebootcourse.com/livepath, and we will see you on the inside.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mark, and we'll talk again soon.
See ya.